and welcome to the full moon in Aquarius on August 1st, 2023. I'm your astrologer, Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome to my channel. We will have a full moon on August 1st at 9 degrees Aquarius, 15 minutes, happening at 2:31 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. This full moon is a mixed bag of aspects. Several quincunxes, lots of squares, and then quite a few trines and sextiles, which combine to make this lunation a complex blend of energies. The T-square between the Sun, Moon, and Jupiter challenges many of the positive aspects we have for this full moon. One's ego and any problems that exist surrounding one's confidence will be overblown by the power of the Sun-Moon opposition combined with the exaggeration quotient of Jupiter. So if one can keep control of one's ego, you'll be fine. But there will probably be more than one of you who believes that it's his way or the highway. Along with a couple of other difficult aspects involving Saturn and Uranus, this could be a tricky moon. This is not the time to begin or end a relationship. This is a time for biting one's tongue, appreciating what one has, and waiting it out for a bit. Aquarius is male, it's an air sign, it's fixed, and it's ruled by Uranus, with the traditional ruler being Saturn. Now, at the full moon, we have a culmination or peak of energy. Anything that was started from the last new moon or the previous full moon will have come to a head. This is the prototypical feeling of the height of the yin versus the yang energy. This is when you will be able to deal with unresolved issues. This is when they will come to the surface and you'll be able to see them, identify them. The full moon literally shines a light on these dark, negative things. So this is a great time for you to let go of negative patterns and toxic thoughts. It's also a wonderful time for working on releasing the wasted emotions of guilt, fear, jealousy, and disappointment. Now let's take a look at the major aspects affecting this full moon and you. Sun and Moon will square Jupiter. Here's the Sun, here's the Moon, and here's Jupiter. And although these red lines look like they're forming a triangle, what they're really pointing out is that the Sun and Moon, are 180 degrees away from each other, and they're both 90 degrees away from Jupiter. So that's why they call this a T-square, because Jupiter is hitting the midpoint between the Sun and the Moon. So don't be fooled by that triangle shape. That means nothing. It's the fact that it's a red line that shows that it's stressful. This T-square challenges many of the positive aspects we have for this full moon, as I already mentioned. Jupiter is a benefic, so we always start off assuming that any aspect with Jupiter will be good. But a full moon carries a lot of energy, and when you blow it up with Jupiter, and don't forget about the quincunxes, you could have something a bit disastrous on your hands. Look for some people to blow up these issues during the lunation because they cannot control their urges. The way the full moon hits the U.S. chart, it's clear that there'll be no harm coming to us, but rather the U.S. will be and has been playing the role of diplomat for the world. The ongoing sextile between Neptune and Pluto has been helping us a lot in this regard. Our natal Neptune up here in Virgo and our Pluto down here at the end of Capricorn are in a natural trine, which is the most positive aspect and the best flow of energy for these two planets. And Neptune is posited in the 9th house, which is where I'm seeing diplomatic abilities. Neptune is the snake oil salesman of the zodiac, but also the priest. So we always have been able to sway other countries with our ardent pleas of for the people and for the good of all. They believe our diplomats and believe in our country as a whole. Now Mars, Pallas Athena, and Mercury. Now Pallas Athena really helps out with the military strategy department, and Mercury, of course, communication, are all transiting our ninth house right now, giving our diplomats, of whom I count President Biden as number one, a lot of power in the art of persuasion. This is a good thing. We will probably hit a home run with something like Ukraine or even releasing U.S. citizens from Russian prisons when Mars, right here, hits an exact conjunction with Neptune, which happens in mid-August, around the time of the new moon. Score! Now, Uncle Joe Biden that is, with this full moon brings an opportunity for some really savvy negotiations. He sees the entire game field in front of him like a military general. So whether he is challenged to negotiate in the domestic political arena or the worldwide military arena, he will prevail. Transiting Venus, which is luck, luxury, money, and smooth talking, is coming up to his natal Chiron, which is helping, healing, and the rainbow bridge, which is also conjunct his north node, his destiny, which is all conjunct Regulus, which is the star of kings. Now I predict Joe will have a substantial victory around August 1st, which is this full moon, which may be underreported, but eventually will come to the public eye and bring him many accolades for his abilities. Now, Joe's Saturn, which is also retrograde in his natal chart, will also vibe happily with this full moon, meaning that he is about to get a reward for something he's worked on for a very long time. Look for Joe to reap some big rewards in the month of August. His spouse may also be awarded something in August, which benefits them both financially or reputationally before the season changes. The asteroid Juno, that's this one up here, is set to conjunct his natal Jupiter in his 8th house for shared resources. So I'm guessing that things will be very nice for them in August. Perhaps there will be some resolution on the documents issue. Back to the full moon chart. We have Mercury opposing Saturn. Here's Mercury opposing Saturn during the new moon. And this means that some communications are just not getting through to the right people, or the right people just don't understand what's being said. Diplomacy will be challenging, but not impossible during this time. One needs to exercise great patience and not lose their cool in order to deliver results. Now, Mercury will be at 5 degrees Virgo, 13, and Saturn will be at 5 degrees Pisces, 39, and remember, it's retrograde. Now, Venus will be squaring Uranus, with Venus being retrograde. So Venus being retrograde, this will mean that there will be a less frantic quality about the spending of money or any romantic activities right now. Nevertheless, we will feel that any commitments made now just hinder our freedom. So best to keep things casual if you can. But if we think back to the United States chart, that Venus square Uranus could also bring about a very inspired and creative solution to diplomatic thorny issues. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but Venus is at 26 degrees Leo 44 retrograde, and Uranus is at 22 degrees of Taurus. So Venus is pulling out of that out of that square. However, Venus is going to be turning around retrograde at the end of the month or near the end of the month, so she may come back into that square with Uranus pretty soon. Then we have Mars trining Jupiter, both of them in Earth signs. This happy aspect will find many competing for prizes and making friends in the process. Now, this could impact our political scene. Travel is favored now, and you will find that conversation and exploring new things really piques your interest. Mars will be at 13 degrees of Virgo 42, and Jupiter will be at 13 degrees Taurus 45. Now, Uranus will be trining Pluto. Here's Uranus here, and it's trining Pluto. Now, remember last month when I said that the world was shifting? Well, that involved Pluto as well. And we are in an extraordinary moment on Earth where we can set in motion a whole new trajectory for humankind. There will be many advocate warriors now who are committed to changing things for the better. For example, better environmental laws and actions, better gun laws, better human rights laws, and many, many more. There can be significant progress in this area. So could it be that we see something profound, deep, and fair brought about by our esteemed Congress? Probably not, but because I think they're on recess right now, but you never can tell. It could also relate to a fair ruling or some other court case that is important to the public. Now for this one, Uranus also at 22 degrees Taurus and Pluto's at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So Uranus is moving tighter into this movement. But remember that Pluto is retrograde, Uranus will be going retrograde, so Uranus is going to pull away from that in her retrograde motion. Then we have Neptune sextile Pluto. This has been going on for quite a while, and this is a lovely aspect that affects peacemaking attitudes. In connection with other aspects that I just talked about, it further enhances peace building and transformative actions on a global scale. Neptune right now is at 27 degrees Pisces, 25, and Pluto is at 28 degrees Capricorn, 52. And those two will stay in that alignment again for quite a while. So I don't think that anything in the world is really going to blow up and be irreparably damaged, and we will continue to play peacemaker for the world. So that's it for all of the planets that are affecting the full moon. Now I'm going to go through and give predictions for all the signs and tell you how the full moon is going to affect you. All right, Aries. So for you, this full moon is falling across your 11th, 5th house axis. This is the creativity axis. So you are going to be feeling like it's time to have fun, like it's time to kick up your heels and enjoy things. This axis, the 11th to the 5th house, deals with things that we think are joyful, that we think really bring us a feeling of happiness. Now, this could be things that you're doing in your retirement. This could be groups that you belong to. This could be your goals, hopes, dreams for the future, that you're engaging in some sort of activity that furthers you towards your goal. This could also be activities having to do with children, with sports, with games of chance, even love affairs, and ways that you feel that you bring joy not only to yourself but to others. Now, the moon in Aquarius can be a bit detached, a little stubborn, distant, rebellious, etc. And because of that, it's not going to be a warm and fuzzy moon. It's not going to be the kind of moon where you spend a lot of time hugging people or telling them how wonderful they are. It's just the act of enjoying the group, enjoying the activity, enjoying what's going on. Now, moon in Aquarius makes us all very creative, and Aquarians are dependable, thoughtful, idealistic, loyal, all those things. However, they are not uber emotional. Aquarius is an air sign, and like most air signs, if they do seem to be emotional, it's usually a bit superficial. And that's because they are thinking in terms of humanity. All the air signs think more in terms of, oh, that's a group of humans, than they do, oh, there's my friends. They really do. So the air sign quality to Aquarius is really going to give it a much less emotional filter. And that's where you may find that things don't feel as passionate as you usually feel them, Aries, because you're a very passionate fire sign. Now, another wrench in the works here for this full moon is that it has a big old square to Jupiter. And this is going to affect you in that it's in your second house. So things that might happen during this full moon is that the Jupiter part of things may blow up what people need. So people may become a bit more emotional about their needs and what they want to do or tackle or have at the end of this couple of days of the full moon. You may feel like it's not very important, but other people may feel that it's really important and you've insulted them and these are my needs, blah, blah, blah. So things will blow up. Jupiter has a tendency to make things bigger. It enlarges things. It can also be lucky. It can also bring things to you that are really beneficial. But in general, it just makes things bigger that you are already trying to achieve. So when it comes to your money, be careful on this full moon. Don't overspend. Don't overeat. Don't over anything. Try to keep things kind of middle of the road. Have a good time and enjoy the company around you, Aries, because that's what this full moon is really good for you. And now we're moving on to Taurus. All right. So Taurus, this full moon is straddling your 10th to your 4th houses. And in the sign of Aquarius, this is going to mean that the Aquarian properties of being detached, somewhat aloof, although very creative and friendly, are going to be showing up in your 10th to 4th houses. The 10th house has to do with your legacy, destiny, your career. The 4th house has to do with your home life, your domestic situation, and the family around you. Now, we also have this square coming from your 1st house where we have Jupiter in your sign of Taurus, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So generally, the full moon, when it's emphasizing your 10th and 4th house, means that something important is probably happening surrounding your career. Now, the moon is the one that's going to be in your 10th house, and the sun is going to be in your 4th house. So where you shine, where you're focusing, where you're looking at things is going to be your home and family and domestic situation. Although if you do have real estate or real estate holdings or a portfolio that involves real estate, or you're actually in the career of real estate, then this is going to be a double whammy for you. With the moon in your 10th house, that's usually going to indicate that there's some sort of a boon that's going to be coming to you during the full moon, but it also means that you're yearning for a boon, that you're looking for something to be acknowledged, that you want the people outside of yourself to see what a good job you're doing or to see what your stellar virtues really are. Now let's talk about that square from Jupiter. So Jupiter is a planet that makes things larger. It enlarges whatever it sees. So if there's a party, it makes it a big event. If there's a job offer, it changes your career. It brings your career to another level. If it's in your 1st house, it could even bring you to another level in terms of helping you gain weight. Or it could help you see yourself as a bigger player on the stage that you're on, whether that's a world stage, a community stage, a family stage. So Jupiter is going to exaggerate some of the things that you're going through as far as your career and home life go. It's squaring, it's giving a challenging or gritty energy to this full moon. So this full moon may be really great for you, or it may be challenging for you. And some of that depends upon your perspective, but a lot of it just depends on your actual home situation as opposed to your career. Now, for some people, like I said, if you are in real estate outright, or I would say even finance, because that's a very Taurian career as well. If you're in real estate or finance, then probably this is going to be a pretty good period, a pretty good full moon for you. But that Jupiter square could also cause things to be too big. It can cause things to be exaggerated. So be careful of the hype. Be careful that you're not giving out too much hype and hyperbole, and that you're not exaggerating things, say, to your customers or to your family. And then this full moon will be pretty happy for you. And as always, I want to emphasize that it is a full moon in Aquarius. So this is not a touchy-feely moon. If people are emotional, as they usually are at the time of the full moon, they're going to go hide their tears behind a door. They're not going to allow people to see their emotions. Aquarians and the sign of Aquarius is very detached. It's very stubborn, though. It is a fixed sign. And when we have this square from Jupiter, it can make people cranky. So you may be forced to bring everything out in the open because somebody gets very cranky with you. So that may help you. That may help you keep things very honest and on an even keel. Aquarius is also, though, a very creative sign, a very loyal friend, very, very independent, and always looking for the unique way to resolve things. So you may find that something happens with you in your career that has a very unique approach to it that you could not anticipate, or with your family. For you, Taurus, it could be either or, and with that square in play for Jupiter, whatever the outcome is of any events that happen surrounding this full moon, they will be bigger than you expect. All right, and now we're going to move on to Gemini. All right, Gemini, this full moon is going to hit your 3rd to 9th house axis. That is the axis of perception and expansion, and the houses that pertain most to learning, to discovering new things. So this is going to be a really nice full moon for you. Not only that, but it's in a sign that you get along with really well. Aquarius is another air sign. So there's lots and lots of simpatico energy going on. Good flow of energy right here. Now, Gemini, you love learning, and you love to learn about things every day. I'm sure you learn 10 new things every single day that you're on the planet, because it's just your nature. You're curious, you ask questions, you're very, very inquisitive, and you want to know why a lot of times. Now, most of the Geminis that I know, they find a few areas of life where they really dig in and learn everything they possibly can about it. And usually that has to do with either their family or their career. And then when they have mastered those things and they've kind of put their material needs to bed, then they just want to know things about everything. And that's where they get to the point where they learn, just enough to be able to have a good conversation about the topic. But by then they probably move on to something else. And as a result, Geminis are the most fascinating, Geminis and Sagittarius, I have to say, most fascinating people to speak to, because they can speak on almost any topic you can think of. So this full moon is also going to give you that opportunity to learn something new, meet something new, travel somewhere new, or at least make plans to do so. Now, the 3rd house also has to do with childhood education, also your siblings, your neighborhood, people in your life like cousins, neighbors, people who, pick up your mail, things like that. So you will also have an opportunity to learn about those things as well during this full moon. The moon itself is going to be in your 9th house. So that's where the yearning and your desire for new horizons is going to really play out. Now, Aquarius is not the sign of Sagittarius, so they don't have quite the wanderlust that a Sagittarius does. Aquarius is a fixed sign, so they're usually just fine staying at home and seeing things on the Travel Channel, or reading books about things, etc., or having people, that they meet who are from somewhere else tell them about it. Aquarius, being a fixed sign, is not known for being overly ambitious when it comes to actually doing travel, but they do like to travel, just not all the time like Sagittarius does. So with this moon being in the sign of Aquarius, you will find that you, Gemini, will take an almost academic approach to everything that you're learning about during this new moon. You might find yourself getting a little impatient with people if they don't give you the information quick enough, because you do want the information. For you, Gemini, a fire hose of information is your idea of a great time. So there's nothing that you will do to block that information from coming in. The sun is in your 3rd house, and that's where you're going to find comfort and a feeling of familiarity, and the feeling that you're happy with how you started out in life. You're happy with the things that you learned early on in life, and it just maybe has you reflecting back on things, or maybe reconnecting with siblings and your neighbors, maybe having a cookout or something over the weekend of this full moon. This full moon also carries with it the square from Jupiter. And for you, Gemini, this Jupiter is going to fall in your 12th house. So your dreams are going to be more vivid and larger. Jupiter enlarges everything it touches. So when Jupiter comes into play in your 12th house, it's going to enlarge things having to do with your subconscious, your dreams, also your self-sabotage. But the 12th house also rules people who are locked away, and I usually say it's the house of the forgotten, as far as other people go. When it comes to you, yes, there's a lot of things like self-sabotage in your subconscious and your dreams, but when it comes to other people, it can also mean people who are very far away and almost forgotten, or locked away, say like in an institution of some kind. Prisons come to mind, but also religious institutions like an ashram or a monastery, where you don't think about those people very often, so they're almost forgotten. So something is going to be triggering you about the subconscious or dreams or people who are forgotten or people at a great distance or people who are locked away. Even hospitals can fall into the 12th house, as does crime because it rules prisons. So you may find that there are people or institutions that you haven't thought of in a long time that come to mind or are sort of shoved up in your face during this full moon. So that might make things uncomfortable for you, Gemini, and you may feel like you have to resolve it or you have to tamp it down and try to forget it again. But in some way, you're going to have to deal with these Jupiterian 12th house issues that is not going to be comfortable because it's squaring the sun and the moon in this full moon configuration. So interesting full moon for you. In general, the energy will be really nice because of that trine between your rising sign Gemini and the sun being, the moon being in Aquarius. That's a really nice configuration for you. But we also have Jupiter squaring the sun-moon thing, and that's going to be difficult for you. All right, let's now move on to Cancer. So Cancer, for you, this full moon is going to fall in your 8th to your 2nd houses, so it's going to have to do with your resources and finances. All right, Cancer. So the moon is going to be in your 8th house, meaning that you are going to have desires, yearning, a little insecurity about where the future takes you financially and materially. Are you able to take care of yourself? Are you and your partner set up with the right kind of plan for, whatever may happen in the future? And usually, for most people, the answer is, probably not. We probably do need to take a look at it and figure out what we're going to do if we can't work anymore or one of us gets sick or whatever. So those are the kinds of things that your brain is going to go to, Cancer, because you're a worrier. You're the kind of people who does think about all of these what ifs in the world, and you try to make a plan, you try to cover your bases. So during the Aquarius full moon every year, this is one of the things that comes to your mind and one of the things that you try to tackle. Now, the sun is going to be in your 2nd house, so actually as far as earning power right now, you're probably going to feel really good about what's going on in your life. The thing about the 2nd, 8th house axis is it pinpoints for us the impermanence of material life, that things that are material of the material world are passing. They're not permanent. They don't last forever. Even a stone building eventually crumbles. But in our world, especially for you, Cancer, you want your world to be permanent, to be long lasting, to be there for your children and your children's children. You probably have inherited or been given gifts from your relatives. Maybe some of them have passed away, but they mean a great deal to you. Your legacy, your ancestry, your ancestors mean a lot to you. And so for you to contemplate that the world is impermanent is a little scary. So at this full moon, these are the kinds of things that are going to come to your mind. So for you, Cancer, this means that Jupiter is going to show up in your 11th house. Now, this could put a damper on things that you're planning for the future. The 11th house is hopes, dreams, and wishes. So you may feel like you've got big hopes, dreams, and wishes that are difficult to achieve because you may not feel that you have the resources. But one thing that is really valuable about the full moon on the 8th, 2nd house axis, Cancer, is that it allows you to look at what your true resources are. You, you have talents and skills. You have the ability to manage things. And probably with your partner, they have different skills and talents and abilities to manage things. So you're not without skill or gain just by yourself. It's just if you put all of your eggs in the basket of material wealth, you could come up short. That's not always going to serve you. Jupiter coming from the 11th house means that your hopes and dreams, again, are going to blow up. They're going to not blow up like go away, but blow up like get bigger. They're going to be exaggerated at the time of this full moon. You may feel like it's an impossible goal to reach, and you'll be very challenged by this. That's the nature of a square aspect between two, or in this case, three planets, is that there's a big challenge there. But challenges are opportunities. And as a cardinal sign, I know you're usually one that will take on a challenge and probably succeed with it. And then you'll be able to tell the tale and advise other Cancers that, hey, this isn't that hard. You can probably do it yourself. So I do think it's going to be a full moon that you remember, Cancer. I think it's going to be a full moon that is a bit of a turning point where it comes to your security and your feelings about your future and your future material wealth, whatever that may be. And I think you may make plans that are a little more solid than they had been before. All right, let's move on now to Leo. Okay, Leo, this full moon is all about your partner and partnership. So the sun will be in your first house because you're Leo rising and it's your birthday period, and that's where the sun always sits. So happy solar return to you. And the moon will be in your 7th house representing your partner. So the needs of your partner are going to be paramount at the time of this full moon. And this happens every year, that you really think about your partnership. And if you're not partnered in a romantic way, this would be a business partnership, or this could even be representing partnerships of a very tight friendship, somebody who's really been with you through thick and thin. But the issues surrounding that very partnership are what come into focus at the time of this full moon. Now, the moon in Aquarius is an unemotional moon. It's detached. It's a little obstinate at times. It's a fixed sign. So it's going to be a little bit distant, but dependable, a very dependable, loyal friend, an idealistic person, but also rebellious because they're idealistic. This Aquarius moon can bring out eccentricities in people, and it can also bring out their desire to just be independent. Now, you may see that, Leo, as someone being insensitive or unyielding, but they are also very intellectual and actually very generous with their original ideas, but creative, dependable, very, very loyal. And that's something you really relate to, Leo. Now, another piece of this full moon is that everything is squared by Jupiter. And when we look at this, Leo, the Jupiter square falls in your 10th house. So right now you have Jupiter transiting your 10th house. And that means that your career is expanding, it's enlarging, it's getting bigger, it may be becoming more important in your life. And at the time of this full moon, as I said, the focus is really on your partner or partnership. And so this focus on your career may be really putting a wrench in the works with your partnership, and that is something you may have to really deal with. Now, we're dealing with all fixed signs here. Your moon, the transiting moon rather, is going to be in your 7th house where you're looking at the needs of your partner, and that's in Aquarius. And your partner may be just really, keeping their hands on their hips and saying, no, I'm not budging. This is what I need. I need this, 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 and this. And they may not be very emotional about it either. They may just be completely obstinate about the whole thing. And that's difficult for you to deal with, Leo, because you can be very obstinate too. You're also a fixed sign. But with Jupiter sitting up there in your 10th house, this means that Actually, it's been there for most of the year, and it will usually, Jupiter transit, it's in a sign for about 12 months. So this is nothing new, but with the full moon, we're getting an irritation or a challenging moment where things have come to a head. So things have come to a head. You're figuring out, well, I won't get the promotion, or I won't get this, or I won't get the bonus if I don't do that, and that's going to piss off my partner or whatever. But you'll have to deal with it, Leo. This full moon is a moment where you are going to have to deal with it. What's more important to me, my career, my partner? I don't think you're really going to have to choose. I think you're just going to have to acknowledge. I don't think you're going to have to make a, you're not going to have to change your relationship, but you are going to have to deal with the energy coming from this very enlarging Jupiter in Taurus in your 10th house, along with the sun in your first house and the moon in your 7th house. These are 3 of the 4 most important houses in our charts. 1, 4, 7, and 10 are the cardinal houses, and this is where life begins, where we acknowledge we're a part of a family, then we get a partner, and then we have a career or fulfill our destiny. So these are very personal houses that it's hitting, very important houses that it's hitting for you in this full moon, Leo. So I want you to be aware that this is going to be one heck of a moon for you, and it's going to be good in the long run, but don't shy away from the challenge of that Jupiter in Taurus in your 10th house. All right, let's move on now to Virgo. Now, Virgo, this full moon falls across your 6th to 12th houses, which means that we're dealing with your work, your everyday routine, your body and health, and also your subconscious and fantasy life, your dreams. The 12th house is also the house of self-sabotage, but it's where we go to sort of let our mind wander. So you'll find that the more demands that you have in your work, the more you have a need to let your mind wander, to let yourself either daydream or fantasize or doodle or meditate or just, take a mental break so that you can keep doing the very hard work that you've been tasked to do. This full moon is going to emphasize the need for changes in these areas. So having Virgo as your rising sign, you know very well that working on routines and working on your health and keeping things in check is very important for your happiness, really, and also for your well-being in general, physical and mental. And Virgo, the moon itself is falling in your 6th house. So the needs for you are very much focused on your routine of every day, your health, your job, the people that you work with. So all of these things are very, very important for you to focus on. The sun is going to be in your 12th house. So that's where the sun is going to shine a light on other needs, the more internal needs, the more subconscious needs. So at the time of the full moon, as I say every month, this is a time to look at the shadow side. This is a time to look and go within and see what, if anything, is kind of holding me back. Where are the tears? Where are the scars? Where is the dark underbelly of me that I could not fix, I don't think that's the right word, but that I could deal with in order to make my life more pleasant. So the full moon is a really good time to identify these things. Also, at the time of the new moon is almost an easier time to identify these things. But Virgo, you're probably pretty self-aware, so you may already know of things that you want to work on as far as shadow work goes. So make a list and start going at it one by one. Now, you're not going to solve all of these things all at once in one full moon, but you could pick the upcoming full moons and decide which issue you're going to deal with according to the zodiac sign of those moons. And if you need more help with that, I would refer you to some of the wonderful books that have been published in the last few years having to do with the moon There's lots of astrology books that really focus on the moon. Of course, Yasmin Boland has her series about moonology. There's tons of great information out there about using the moon cycle to do your shadow work. And I would say that for you, Virgo, this is probably a really good thing for you to do. Your birthday month is coming up next month. So this would be an excellent time for you to start that kind of project where you sort of journal where you're at with each full moon and new moon, I might say, for a year, so that you really get to know and understand your own psyche. This is an excellent way of sort of spiritually cleaning house for yourself. All right, now we also have the square from Jupiter that's going into this full moon, and the square from Jupiter is going to fall in your 9th house for learning and expansion and foreign countries and the internet and things like that. So Jupiter is going to explode your desire to learn new things. It's going to emphasize the ability to learn new things. Jupiter is a natural ruler in the 9th house, so it's going to be very strong during this full moon. And it is going to disrupt or agitate your need to keep this perfectly balanced routine that you have set up for your life. So get ready to make some changes, Virgo. This full moon is going to instigate the need to learn new things, take on new challenges, new spiritual challenges, especially with that Jupiter in the 9th house emphasis. And I think if you open yourself up to it, you may find that this was a really valuable full moon, and one that's going to kick off for you a beautiful journey as far as developing ways to deal with your shadow side. All right, let's move on to Libra. Okay, Libra, this full moon is going to sit on the axis of your 5th to your 11th house. The 5th house is going to hold the moon, and the 11th house is going to hold the sun. So what does this mean? Well, the emphasis for you is on pleasure. And how do you bring pleasure to others, and how do you get pleasure for yourself? So with the moons, which represents our needs, you're going to need to figure out a way to have some fun, take a little vacation, or if you like shopping, do that, or if you enjoy reading murder mysteries or watching very interesting movies, whatever it is that turns you on, you need to do more of that during this full moon so that you really get your head out of just working all the time and allow all those facial muscles to relax. Libra, you can relate to that. So the 5th house is where we have fun. It's where we deal with our children, we deal with sports and teams and games and activities. We also deal with games of chance there, including even the stock market, which is considered a game of chance, and love affairs. And that's probably the part that you like the best, Libra, is the part about love affairs. But it's just where we just have fun for fun's sake. Now, the 11th house, where the sun is, that's going to deal with your hopes, dreams, and wishes for the future, the way that you give back to society, and that also gives you pleasure and joy. So looking at the sun there in this full moon, this is going to be an opportunity for you to figure out, what does the future look like for me? I know how to have fun. I'm a Venus sign. It's not like I can't have fun. I definitely can. But what's the future hold for me? How am I going to have fun in the future when I'm not working anymore? That's usually what the 11th house really indicates. So you can get a clue right there what the future is going to look like for you, and then you can set about making plans to have that happen. Now, we also have the square from Jupiter, and that's going to fall in your 8th house. Now, Jupiter in your 8th house is not a bad thing. It can expand things. And the 8th house is about intimacy and the occult and things that are hidden, but it's also about joint finances, other people's money, other people's resources that we have a hand in managing. So for Jupiter being there in the 8th house, this could mean that you could get an inheritance, you could get a big payout from an insurance company, you could maybe get money that was owed you in a big lump sum for some reason, a court case or something like that, or you could just expand your intimacy and awareness with your partner. You could expand your joy of being with your partner for mature couples who have been together a very, very long time, Jupiter transiting their 8th house can be a beautiful moment where they are exploring each other in new ways, where their mature love goes to even yet another level. So Jupiter going through the 8th house is really wonderful, but it is at square aspect with the full moon, the sun and the moon. So how is that going to affect you, Libra? Well, it's going to have you looking at your actual resources and how you're trying to set yourself up for the future, what you're going to do for fun in the future and for today. And now how do you get ready for the future if you're spending your hard-earned resources on your fun for today? So that's the balancing act that you're going to have to come into and come to grips with, Libra. It's not too tough of a full moon for you. It's in a very forgiving sign for you. Aquarius is a sister sign for you. It's also an air sign. So the energy in general of the Aquarian moon is not going to be too far into you. It's not going to feel awful in any way. It's going to feel very, very happy and familiar and fun. But like Aquarius, Libra, the emotional side of you expressing yourself during a full moon is not going to be full of tears and probably full more of laughter, but a more intellectual, more dispassionate view of things, because you are an air sign and emotions don't really come into it. So you may find yourself a little more demanding than usual because Aquarius is a fixed sign, you're not. So when people are asking you to make choices, you may be very decisive, Libra, which is quite unlike you, but you may have the desire to really put your foot down about something and make your choices and have them stick. So that's what's going to be different for this full moon for you, Libra. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for listening, and I'm moving on to Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio. So this full moon for you is falling across the 4th to 10th house axis. So the emphasis is going to be on home and your domestic situation, and also your career and job. So the moon is going to be in your 4th house. So the needs of your family are what's going to be really, really important for you at the time of this full moon. This could be the time where your family makes it known that they need you to, put on a new room, or upgrade the basement, or fix the bathroom, or change the bathroom in some way. So something about your domestic situation and the actual property and structure that you live within is going to be calling for your attention. The sun is going to be in your 10th house, and that's going to emphasize your career, obviously. So there's a spotlight on your career right now. Could be that you get some sort of boost or boon or accolade or acknowledgement for a job well done, but it could also mean that you just think it's really important and you're building towards a legacy in your career that you're quite proud of. In addition to this, you have the square from Jupiter coming, and that is in your 7th house. So having Jupiter in your 7th house means that the partner and the focus for the partner just expands and gets exaggerated. So there could be something that's expanding for you with your partner. Maybe you're getting married. Maybe you just met somebody and that relationship is getting more important. Or maybe some boon or some financial change is happening for your partner at this moment. Whatever it is, the focus will be on something for the partner, but it will not conflict necessarily, but it will challenge the situation that you're looking at with the home and your career. So it could be that it does conflict, or it could be that it just challenges your ability to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of where it comes to your actual domestic situation. I don't think that the career portion of it is necessarily going to have a big conflict with anything going on, although it could. I'm assuming that the Jupiter coming from the partnership in the sign of Taurus is going to conflict more with the moon transiting the 4th house, but I could be wrong. It could be that you have a big conflict between partnership and career during this full moon. It just depends. Now, the full moon in general is going to be in Aquarius, and the energy for Aquarius is is a challenge for you, Scorpio. It's also a fixed sign. Aquarians are not very emotional, where you are very emotional. And so for the time of the full moon, you're going to find that you and other people are a lot less emotional than usual. However, you will also be pretty demanding. You may find yourself being real stubborn about the choices that you make and that you want everybody to agree with you. You could be a lot more aloof than usual. You could be very eccentric. You could be really obstinate and unyielding at this moment, and that can come off as being highly insensitive. Alternately, people will see that you are very dependable and thoughtful, although idealistic, and a very loyal friend. But that strong-willed independent streak is going to come out. And that's something, I think, Scorpio, that you have anyway. So this full moon in Aquarius is just emphasizing those traits that you already have. So that's what I'm seeing for Scorpio for this full moon. Now let's move on to Sagittarius. All right, Sagittarius. So for this full moon, you're going to find that the moon is in your third house. And this is a place where you love to have the moon. You just love the whole third house, ninth house axis because it really plays your tune. And your tune is that you are a student of the world. You love to know about everything. You want to see everything in the world. You want to go everywhere in the world. And this full moon is going to give you a good taste of that. You may find, though, that with the moon being in your third house, you actually want to stay closer to home, that you do want to just commune with your neighbors or your siblings or even your children at this time. And you're not necessarily taking a big trip, across the world or across the continent or anything like that. So during this Aquarius full moon, what you'll be looking at is perhaps more of a planning session with you and your kids figuring out, where would we like to go someday, or where would you like to go someday? Not necessarily promising that you'll take them, but sending them off on their own little journeys. So interesting full moon for you. They may find, that you're a little less emotional than usual during this full moon because Aquarius is an air sign and they can be rather detached, unemotional, a little aloof, but very, very obstinate. So don't be surprised if you find yourself pushing your kids into certain things rather than just inviting them to make these choices, because the moon in Aquarius can be quite obstinate and unyielding. It can also be a very loyal friend, very steadfast, but it's always going to adhere to their own values and the things that they think are important, whether you agree with it, whether other people agree with it or not. Now, Jupiter is going to be in, where's Jupiter going to be? Jupiter's going to be in the 6th house. So you're going to find that your daily routines and your health is going to get bigger in some way. So how does health get bigger? Well, you could gain weight, or you could find that you just have more outlets for working out. Like maybe you had a gym membership and now that membership is maybe they franchised all over the place and now you have the ability to go to the gym anywhere in the world or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I'm just trying to figure out how Jupiter would relate to more things for you to do concerning your health and your routines. It could mean, though, that you do re-examine your routines, that you make changes in your routines as a result of researching things, and that you do take on even more rituals that you have to do every day in order to maintain your health. That's one way I could see Jupiter really playing out. Now, this Jupiter energy, though, is in square to the sun and the moon. So the stuff that you're doing with these rituals for health or daily routines or working out or things you do on the job, this could find you a little exhausted by the time the full moon passes, and you may drop some of them. But it's a challenge, and it's something that you want to tackle because your moon, the Aquarius moon, is kind of tugging at your mind and saying, learn about this, figure this out, look at this, maybe change this up. So it is a learning, thinking full moon for you, Sagittarius, which you love, and it's a nice sign for you. It's Aquarius is in sextile to your Sagittarius rising sign, so it's a nice energy for you to work with. But there will be a few things that you have to face up to and that you have to accept as a challenge. All right, let's move on to Capricorn. All right, Capricorn, this full moon in Aquarius is going to fall in your second house with the sun in the 8th house. So the second house, 8th house axis is what we're going to focus on for you. And this is the axis of security. How much money do I have? Can I make myself comfortable? Can my partner and myself toddle off into the future with enough money to live until we die? That's the main crux of the second 8th house axis. However, we have this square from Jupiter coming in, which is sitting in your 5th house for children and games of chance. So could it be that you have gambled away some money? Gambling is in the 5th house. Or could it be that your debts are so large that you can't accomplish your future goals with money? Well, I would be very surprised, Capricorn, if that were the case, because I think you're very serious about your money, and I think you're very serious about creating it, holding on to it, managing it, and spreading it around for your family. So during this full moon, what you're going to find is that your needs are probably met, but you're questioning things. So you're going to be looking at your income. You're going to be looking at different streams of income, possibly adding to several streams of income to your normal income. And then you're going to be looking at your shared resources and figuring out how you want those to be allocated. Usually shared resources end up being in the form of some kind of a portfolio for retirement, or it could be that you have several annuities or other investment instruments that you want to look at and maybe modify in some way. That's what this full moon is really going to have you focusing on, is your security. Capricorn, that is a big, serious topic for you. That is not one that you take lightly. Now let's throw in that square from Jupiter in the 5th, and what we have is that there could be something from your children that throws a wrench in the works for your security, or it could be your own spending or recklessness that brings that in. And with Jupiter there, it means it's going to be big, big money. So Jupiter's going to exaggerate that a little bit. It's going to make things a little bit wonky for you, a little bit difficult and tricky for you to deal with. But Capricorn, I'm sure it's nothing that you can't handle. You've probably handled this before with your family. So that's really, it's kind of a neat and sweet prediction there for you, Capricorn. Not a lot of frills around the edges. And so now I'm going to move on to Aquarius. All right, Aquarius, so this is your full moon. You get one every year. Well, a couple years back you got two. That was nice. But there, you only have one this year. And the moon obviously will be in your first house because the moon is in the sign of Aquarius. And the sun will be in your 7th house. So this full moon is going to focus on you. Now, the way it focuses on you is to have your partner reflect back to you what the needs are, what you're saying your needs are, and asking the question, is this a good partnership? Is everything in line? Now, the full moon every month is a time for people to have a little mini reckoning. It's not like Saturn. It doesn't hold your feet to the fire. It's different every month because the moon is very changeable and it hits a different part of your chart every month. And even just the traveling of the moon going around your chart can be a trigger for certain things. But when it comes to the full moon, we have that power going back and forth between the sun and the moon that makes this event very important for everyone. So in your case, Aquarius, you're looking at, how do I present myself to the world? Am I happy with that? What do I want to be? What are you yearning for? What is most important for me to know about how the world sees me? And do I like the way they see me, or do I want to change that? These are the things that you're going to be thinking about during this full moon. And it's a good thing that you're Aquarius rising because it allows you to look at these things with a dispassionate eye. So not super emotional, a little bit detached, maybe aloof even, but very clearly you're looking at the whole package. You know, does the world see me as my hair, or does the world really see me? And you're going to go to great lengths during this full moon to analyze that and determine whether you like the way the world is seeing you or not. And you may enlist the aid of your partner to help you modify the way the world sees you, because they are outside of you, so they can give you feedback about how you are coming off to the rest of the world. Now let's throw into that the square from Jupiter. So Jupiter is in your 4th house for home and domestic situation. Jupiter expands things. It makes things bigger. So this is the time when you're going to decide, oh, we need to put a new wing on the house, or we need to turn that garage into a den for dad, or we need to turn it into a rec room for the kids, or whatever. You could be changing homes entirely. You could decide to just sell your house and buy a new one. That could be part of the Jupiter in the 4th house. You could buy a second home or a vacation home. That could be another expression of that. But exploding the house itself, like making the house bigger, would be a natural thing to happen when Jupiter is transiting your 4th house. And it's not just transiting your 4th house during the full moon. Jupiter spends a year in every sign pretty much. So Jupiter has been in your 4th house. You've probably been thinking about this and trying to come to grips with it. And now that we have this full moon where we have the little trigger of the square, the T-square, this is the time where you might decide to actually do that. Another ramification of having Jupiter in the 4th house might mean that your family gets bigger by people. So you could be adding a pet, you could be fostering a child, you could be fostering a pet, you could be getting pregnant and adding a child to your home, you could have somebody move in with you, you could have a relative come and stay for a good long time. Lots of different ways that people can be added to your family, and this, the negotiations of this and the figuring out of this and the mechanics of this could all happen during this full moon. So quite a nice full moon for you, Aquarius, although you do have that T-square in there and you're going to have to deal with some things. I think it just means rearranging the pieces on the chessboard for you. You're pretty savvy with this stuff. So I'm not worried about you not being able to make things work after this full moon. I think you'll enjoy it, and happy full moon. It's not your birthday, so I won't say happy solar return, but happy full moon. I'm sure you will enjoy it. All right, and now let's move on to the last sign, Pisces. All right, Pisces. So this full moon is spanning the 12th back to the 6th house for you, with Jupiter in Taurus sitting in your 3rd house. So this is going to be a very interesting full moon for you. The 6th house has to do with your routines, your work, your daily life, how you do things just automatically every day. And the 12th house has to do with the polar opposite of that. It has to do with your subconscious and your fantasy life and your dreams, and also with people who are at a great distance, or people who are in situations where they're really locked away, like a prison, a hospital, an ashram, something like that. So with your moon in the 12th house, your needs are to explore your subconscious, to explore dreams and things that are coming up from your subconscious that really make you think or make you hurt or make you feel. So you're going to be doing a lot of shadow work, I think. You're going to be looking within and trying to figure out, well, if I meditate every day, will I finally become a channel? Yeah, you probably will, but you got to meditate for years probably to make that happen if it hasn't already happened. But what else are you going to do? What's the harm in meditating every day? You'll just lower your blood pressure permanently and become a much more zen and happy person. So kudos to that. Let's all meditate every day. Now, the 6th house, where you have the sun, is going to light up. So there probably is going to be a lot of projects at work, a lot of busyness. There could even be some new people coming and old people leaving. There's going to be some activity at work that you're very involved with that really highlight for you what your routine is at work, what your contribution is to that job, but also what your routine is in general. And that's where you might want to make a few little tweaks and changes that come as a result of looking at your shadow work. So you may find by doing the shadow work that there are certain things that you are doing in your routine that are hindering you or are not beneficial or you don't need to do anymore, or you're just doing because somebody else told you to do it. So there's a lot of things that you could cull or get rid of within your daily routines that might free up your time in life to do something that you do enjoy and that's more beneficial. So that's what's going to be going on that way for you, Pisces, between the 12th and the 6th houses. Now, you also have Jupiter in the 3rd house. That's the house for information, communication, talking, getting together with your siblings, getting together with neighbors, how you interact with them, and that sort of thing. So this is great because this gives you the opportunity to talk with other people, learn about different things, and this may really coincide with you changing up your daily routine. By talking to the people around you, specifically neighbors and or siblings, you may find that they've done things like that for years and found that it was or wasn't valuable. This may be great information for you to take on about how you might modify your daily routines or even work routines that you're doing. Yeah, we used to do our billing this way and then we changed it to that and it just saves us so much time. You know, something like that. So there's lots of things with that Jupiter in the 3rd house that will challenge you to really look at what's going on in your daily routine. But that challenge doesn't stop there. Jupiter in Taurus is also going to challenge the way you get to your shadow work, the way you use your dreams or don't use your dreams, the way you connect to your subconscious, the way you meditate, the way you pray, the way you connect with the divine. All of these things could be challenged with that Jupiter in Taurus, and you may find that this full moon is the exact perfect time to really open up spiritually to what the answers might be and how you might change a little bit that would be very, very beneficial. So an important full moon, but subtle for you, Pisces. And I think that if you're open to this, you might find that the changes that come about at the time of this full moon are very, very beneficial. All right, so that's what I have to say about Pisces, and that wraps up our full moon predictions for every sign and the analysis of all of the planetary aspects against the full moon. Thank you so much for watching. I did announce on my community page that I have reached 3,000 subscribers. And if you go on my community page, please make sure you're subscribed. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten that in your news feed. And if you can comment on those posts that I make about the 3,000 subscribers, you'll be entered into a contest to win a free natal astrological reading from me. That's a big reading. That's an expensive reading I'm giving away. But you could certainly benefit from that if you won the contest. So please make sure you're subscribed so that you can see the next time I post about that contest. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful month, and I will see you next time.